Hi, welcome to the Sweet Seat with Mendy Stoll, where we explore stories and strategies behind standout travel and hospitality brands. Today, I'm talking to someone who's created a truly fresh take on coastal boutique hospitality in Texas. Robert Marcus, the owner of Hotel Lucine in Galveston. Robert, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mendy, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. You know, you and I had a chance to talk a little bit, and you've been in hospitality for a while, but boutique hotels are a whole different world. And I'd love to know what inspired you to create Hotel Lucine and why Galveston?
These are great questions. So, I think the easiest one to take immediately is my family's from Galveston. So, my wife was born there, and that's where she grew up. During COVID, we decided to move back to Texas for multiple reasons. Just living in New York was not for us at that time. So, we went to Texas. And a partner that I have now in the hotel, he also lived there with his wife, who grew up with mine, and kind of presented this opportunity. And the two of us
Mm.
looked at it and decided, this is a really great drive to market. There's a lot of opportunity to bring something unique to a market that traditionally serves like a select service kind of model. And we thought that, emulating some things that we are seeing in other markets would be interesting for consumers and a really large metropolitan area of Houston to come see in Galveston.
And so, Galveston has such a unique charm history, architecture, beaches. What drew you specifically to this environment for a boutique concept? I know you were saying that, you were feeling a certain piece of the market. There was this piece and that piece, and you found something that was really unique for the boutique concept. What drew you to that?
Yeah, so I think that I've been in boutique properties for a number of years here. I developed some here in New York and have also been a consultant on a number of other properties across the United States. This one, I think, was the uniqueness of Galveston helped with kind of driving that instinct to want to do something here, in addition to my desire to kind of like have more drive to markets, right? I think that there's a lot of opportunity with inside that. And Houston being, I think, the third largest metro in the United States created a lot of opportunity there. So that's why this market was interesting. And then this asset was interesting because it's sort of it provides nostalgia, but it
Mm.
also creates the opportunity to have the modern and unique take on hospitality right across from the beach.
So, for listeners who haven't stayed there yet, paint the picture. What's the soul of the Hotel Lucina? What makes it different from anything else on the island?
Yeah, so the soul of the property is really the staff and then the environment that we're able to create there, right? We were able to take this existing property and make it feel more like a beach house that you might visit a family member at, right? And so we often use Aunt Lucine as our kind of guide to describe a lot of things throughout the property. So our lobby, for instance, we often refer to it as the den, and we have a pergola in the courtyard. And then the fancy is sort of a tongue-in-cheek restaurant to say like this is like the nice dining table as opposed to being in like maybe the breakfast room or in the kitchen. So it's the fancy dining room, if you will. But nothing in there is so, out of touch or out of reach. We want it to feel like you can go there anytime and have just a great meal that's has local ingredients and a chef who's from the region. So that's the soul of it. And then we also have great music that comes throughout that's regional. And so it's really a locally inspired and driven concept that we hope guests are able to explore both our property and Galveston in general.
And if you had to describe the Hotel Lucine in 3 words, what would it be and why?
I think I would probably have to say it's fun, right? It's a fun environment. Like I said, we have live music very often. Galveston is also just a great place to kick back. And then I would say sort of modern because we do have a lot of modern touches to a historic 1960s
Mm.
building. And I think the last one would just be like warmth. Our staff is just outstanding and strive to provide great Southern hospitality to anybody that comes through. And I think that we see that reflected in our reviews.
You guys have great reviews, and it, Lucine really feels like a place to me where the locals and travelers blend so naturally. And I know that's really part of the restaurant, and you have the rooftop, and they seem like they'd be great gathering spots in their own right. Tell us a little bit about just a little more about the restaurant and the rooftop and how locals can really come to appreciate it even more.
Yeah, so we have, great programming throughout the year for those public spaces, specifically the rooftop in our pergola and like courtyard area where we do bring in musicians, have markets, we have other events that would inspire others to kind of come and explore the hotel. It'd be like a historic like a Galveston Historic Society throwing an event there, or other uh, kind of uh, people throughout the region. And then in the restaurant, I think that what we have is a unique take on local cuisine, right? We don't have just fried fish and fried, French fries and just fried in repertoire. It's really a chef who's taken pride in local ingredients and driving the market to have something that's unique.
I love that. I know so many of the big hotels in that area will just buy from big vendors and they don't take a locally sourced approach. I love that you've really found a unique way to honor the culture. And how intentional were you in creating a space? Because Galveston has a very strong culture, and how intentional were you in creating a space that doesn't feel like a cookie cutter hotel, but something that matches the fabric of the island?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time at the development stage with that. We have, I've got great partners who live in Galveston, and they're able to bring in that perspective, especially since one of them has grown up there and my wife has also grown up there. And so they have a unique take on the environment that many hoteliers who come into Galveston don't have, right? They really are able to bring people to what is unique about Galveston. And so we did spend a lot of time trying to understand how our property would play with inside of the greater environment. And so with inside of the actual hotel, though, we took, this 1960s property and said, what can we do that's unique now that also reflects what was built at the time, which was really cool at the time. And in order to do that, we did speak with some of the original architects' children and got their experience of what happened when they were on the property
Mm.
originally. And they had a party there after we opened. And so we took all of these pieces of data and really tried to create a unique experience with inside of a property that is reflective maybe in some of the other markets that you might see that have the same sort of product type, even in Texas, right? So Austin, and then Palm Springs out in California.
Yeah, and I can really see that, and I love that story of that you went back to generations who'd been to the hotel to really understand what it was, because that really translates into the guest experience. And I think in a boutique hotel, especially one on the coast, the guest experience is everything. And I'd love to know what your philosophy around training your team to deliver authentic, up to date recommendations, or just even an authentic experience while the guest is there.
Yeah, so the people that are interacting with your guests the most are your front desk staff, but it's not just them that are important throughout the property, right? All your servers and bartenders, they are all touch point people. And then the people that maybe don't get enough credit, but also have, perhaps even more experience with ensuring that guests have a great time are, our housekeepers and housemen and other back of house staff. And so, we find that when you're able to have some of these, departmental meetings, if you're making sure that people are inclusive and understand why uh, it's important that they're a part of the entire experience, they're able to tell that story and be, just extra helpful to guests, right? Once they love the environment that they're working within, they're able to make that something that the guests can feel and take with them. So there's certainly a large part of training that is involved, but also just ensuring that our existing staff is equally enamored with the property as we are is really important in order to show our guests like how special this place really is.
And where do you wish the guest experience were even stronger?
I think that if we could drive some more traffic to, our restaurant, which is amazing and certainly unique on the island, I think that getting more people through there would be great. Uh, there's so many other restaurants that exist on the island or select service, and they don't have facilities like these. And so, if we could drive more traffic from some of those places to our restaurant, which is open to everybody, I think that that would be great. The guests who stay on site, they do experience it and they love it. And it's like, how do we get those other people to come and see, just how amazing this one place is?
I agree. And if you had this magic wand to fix one operational friction overnight, something that would instantly improve the guest experience, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough question. Magic wand to fix an operational pain point. I don't know. That's really tough. I think that we're working really hard right now and being really diligent in what we're able to achieve. And so I don't think there's a single place that I would want to wave that wand. I mean, over the entire property is kind of like, you hope to have like magic dust everywhere. But I think making sure that our staff just continues to be great at what they're doing, and then with inside of our food and beverage venues, that those staff members feel like they're also a part of the team, and that it's important that they're able to uh, you know expand on why the property is great to the guests, not just from a food and beverage perspective, but in general.
I know we were talking about how you have particular staff that's actually called out in their reviews, and your reviews are so great. So I can tell you guys are working really hard to win the guest's heart and mind. And and as you think about culture or intention, how are you setting your team up for success at Lucine?
Yeah, so I think that we're trying to build from within, right? So when you do find those people who have something special and who want to grow with you, and making sure that they feel recognized and that they have a path for growth. And that happens across the entire spectrum. Because, once somebody feels like they no longer are able to contribute, or they feel like they're being ignored, it's really tough to bring them back into the fold. And so ensuring that the people who do have, great interactions with guests, who are prompt and on time with what they're doing, and that they get recognized for that, is of utmost importance. We have an app with inside of the hotel, and managers are able to call out their existing staff on great things, and they let them know when they get reviews that have their names in them. And I think that that's really special for us. And so long as our staff members are encouraged and believe that they are doing a great job, they want to be hospitable. They want people to come, and that's why they work in this industry. So I think that that's what's helpful here.
And, I find that guests, they get the end experience. They have no idea what goes on behind the scenes and the amount of work it takes to deliver that experience. What do you wish more guests understood about behind the scenes work that it takes to run a boutique hotel on the Gulf Coast? Give them a little peek on what it takes to deliver the experience that they get. They have no idea. They just get the end result.
Yeah, I think that the part that a lot of people miss is how many people it takes in order to make sure that those guests have a great experience, right? It's the same thing kind of as theater, right? Where you have the actors who are on the stage in front, but it takes all those people doing making sure the curtains and the lights and the everything, the sound and everything else is coming together for that experience in front of them to take place. And the same thing happens with inside hospitality, right? It really requires like everyone from our maintenance staff up through the front desk, and being directed by our great general manager to uh who acts as a conductor in a way, right? And like this property by itself, while it's only 61 rooms, has over 80 staff members to make
Mm.
sure that it's running properly. That takes a lot of work on everyone's behalf to make sure that it's done smoothly. And the part that nobody sees, that that's what's difficult, right? It's the part that's in the front is much easier, where you just see like, oh, this is a great looking room, or I got greeted well at the front desk. It's like it took so much just to get that there. People all over the property ensure that those guests are having just an amazing experience.
I think that's such an important number for the guests to understand the ratio of 61 rooms to a staff of 80. I mean, It really puts it in perspective how much hands-on it takes to deliver that experience. That's such a great insight to share. And Lucine is relatively young, yet it has this really strong identity. And where do you see the hotel in the next, say, 12 to 24 months? Any new experiences or expansions on the horizon that you're thinking about?
Yeah, we've got some great things that we're looking at currently on how we could provide even more experiences for the guests. And one of the places that we've focused is sort of on health and wellness, and letting guests have these experiences on property, whether it's yoga or sound baths or any of the other programming that we're kind of getting off the ground right now. But that they can do that, and then they can also, relax and have a drink and have a great meal and all of these things. Maybe that they're not, going for a spa weekend, right? But they have the ability to still, you know, center themselves and really relax. We're leaning into that a lot. And I think that we have some great practitioners who are on property regularly to help with that. We're also looking at having another of our summer concert series. So that's been really done really well for us. And I think that we'll see that again this year. It'll be even better than the last year. And we just keep growing it. My partner Dave, who helps put that together, has done a great job. And I think that we'll continue to see that grow.
It's so interesting. What you've really done well is taken something that could just be four walls and making it a total experience for the guest. You're making me want a book to go have a sound bath or a music or a rooftop drink, and those are all the things that position you so uniquely. And if you were to zoom out, what do you think the future of boutique hospitality is, especially in the drive to beach destinations like Galveston?
I think that with inside of the boutique destinations that are like drive to markets, I think that's going to continue to be these, smaller properties, this, 100 room, 100 key property that are going to be unique and special. And the way that it's going to change is I think we're going to continue to see people step away from that select service model or maybe even develop it further, but it has to be more guest centric. Anybody can create a room. That's not what's hard. Right? It's that entire experience that makes a property unique and makes people want to go there. Otherwise, you could be at any hotel. It's the staff and that experience that you're able to bring to guests through programming that makes the hotel special.
I don't think the guests understand. That's why I loved when you shared the ratio. I remember um, one time we booked into this hotel and I could see the valet calling into the front desk that we were there. And all of my friends who were with me had no idea. But coming from this background, I realized that's the little touch that goes so far. And I love how you've thought of all these things to make the guest experience so much better. And it's why your reviews are amazing. And I always love to understand the person behind the brand. What's something you've learned about leadership through building Lucine that surprised you?
Yeah, I think there's, a number of things that I've learned through this process, but, resiliency is certainly like a big one in any project management. This was not an easy project to get through. Sometimes you look at new builds and you think, oh, wow, that looks much easier now that I've done a renovation, right? There's so many things behind the walls that are both great and, not so great. And it's how do you get through that to bring a unique product to the market? But it also just, working with staff because we did do everything from development through to operating this for the first year and a half. Those relationships that you build with staff are super important, and we couldn't have done this without them. So we're really appreciative of that.
And hasn't running a hotel on an island changed your view on business or even in life?
Oh yeah, certainly. Islands are their own animal, if you will, right? Like things that happen there are not necessarily the same as on the mainland because you either don't have the resources or the people. And so they kind of work in their own way. And once you learn to work with inside those confines, you can strive, but it's certainly a learning curve in order to understand, where to go for whatever it is that you might need, especially if it's something you need immediately. It might not always be immediately available.
Especially if you're coming from New York and you're used to that
Yeah,
24
yeah.
feel, and then you're on an island. It's a completely different experience for sure. And, there's a lot of aspiring hotel owners and operators that like to listen. So if you could give them one piece of advice about creating meaningful guest experiences, maybe without a massive budget, what would you tell them?
I think that there's opportunity to look and see what that market had historically in order to integrate that into your property, because you know the market is what's going to drive your traffic. There's very few resorts that exist in the middle of nowhere where people just show up, right? And those are certainly unique and special places, but you need to be in a market that you're able to exemplify the best parts of that in order to drive traffic. Provide experiences that are not just on property but off property that make the guests want to love the place as much as you do.
Sure. And what's something that maybe as we start to wrap up that you would want maybe someone coming to the hotel to know that's never been there? What would you say to them of why they should come stay at Lucine?
I think that they should come because Galveston is just a great town, and the property that we have is certainly unique with inside it and with inside of Texas. Galveston is very different than the rest of Texas, and our hotel plays to all of the best parts of it. So I think that's why I'd want them to come.
Well, Robert, this was fantastic. You've built something really special in Galveston, and I know listeners are going to want to see it for themselves. So, where can people follow Hotel Lucine or book a stay?
Yeah, we're on Instagram at Hotel Lucine. And to book a stay, just go directly to our website. Booking direct is always the best at hotellucine.com. And we look forward to seeing everybody come as guests, and we can't wait to host them.
Well, thanks for being here. And to everyone listening, if you've enjoyed the episode, send this to someone who loves boutique travel. And we'll see you guys next time on The Sweet Seat.
Thanks, Mendy.